Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, Super Bowl Monday. Way to go Broncos. So today is Monday, February the 8th, 2016, and today we have Jim Shelter from the Washington Avenue Christian Church and the invitation. So if you all stand and remain standing for the pledge.
Father, it is Monday. Sometimes it's hard to get started in new weeks, but we thank you for the gift of fresh beginnings. We thank you, Lord, for watching over this assembly. We know that your word says that you govern in the affairs of men. We're thankful for that. And we're thankful that we have a group assembled here that also value you and value your presence here enough to start this meeting with a prayer. Lord, we ask your guidance to be with these leaders, commissioners. We ask you to be with our city, our region. There's so many things, Lord, that we need your hand in. And so we crave that closeness to you. We ask you to walk with us, Lord, in the hour that is ahead. We ask you to guide us in each way. Place your hand of protection and providence upon us. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Okay, number one is the recognition of minutes from the January 25th, 2016. And we had two of them that same day. For the 10 o'clock one and the 5:30. Any questions? Changes? If not, so recognized. And two is vouchers to consider and act upon the approval of the payment of vouchers processed by the County Auditor's Office for the period of January 20, 2016 through February 3rd, 2016. Check numbers 1669980 through 167184, and wire transfers number 666 through 677 in the amount of $5,018,851.23.
I move we approve the vouchers as presented.
Second for discussion. I have a quick question, Carrie, on page 20 of 34, check number 167183, Excel Energy, and then the description is replace light pole damage. I'm not sure if this was an accident, if there's any county insurance involved.
There's not any insurance. Apparently this was a pole that was in very bad shape, and I guess the mowers got a little close to it, and we had to replace it.
Thank you.
A lawnmower took it down?
Yeah, like I say, it was in very bad shape. But we were responsible.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Judge.
Yes.
Do you mind if I say something on the vouchers, please?
What was your name again,
There's, as I was going through the vouchers this week, I realized that we have been charged for our pest control. It's on 15 and 34. I'm not trying to leave this thing and it has been fixed, but it needs to be addressed because on the pest control, under the sheriff's admin building, we've been charged twice now. Once on this one and once in January, I guess. And nobody has ever sprayed our building. We immediately started calling. We checked our office first to make sure nobody had been in there. Immediately called purchasing. They got a hold of the guy, and he did come out the very next day and sprayed our building after he had said that, well, I've sprayed all the buildings on Pierce Street. We're the only building on Pierce Street. He goes around and I guess he meets with maintenance on Saturdays. We have nobody in our building on Saturdays except for dispatch, and they have no way of getting in the building. So my concern is that we paid twice for our building downtown and possibly our barn. He says that he went through
They're doing it with our PNR.
So, but we've had two charges for our building downtown that never received service. So I just wanted to pass that along. Like I said, I think we've got it worked out and talked to the guy, he has some contact to be able to get hold of us and come here every week for that. However, like I said, we've got two charges that either need to be free the next couple of times or we need to be reimbursed.
And someone's contacted
Yeah,
them?
I've contacted as the purchasing agent immediately after, Captain Coffee, let me know, and the vendor said that they will be crediting us for those months.
Okay, and they're a new vendor this time around, so I'd imagine a little bit getting used to the facility, so thank you for watching them so closely, Sherry.
And we've also sent out an email to all the other parties that are using them to let us know what the status as far as them, good and bad. To let us know how their service is for the other departments.
Mike, does one of your guys go with them when they go around?
We treat our buildings once a month on Saturdays, and we take a call to them, except the fire department, road bridge, and the sheriff's admin.
Yes, that contract, Mercy, had just been approved on December 1.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Number 4, tax office to consider and act upon. I just realized these are not numbered correctly. Sorry. Should be number 3, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. To consider and act upon tax refunds for overpayment of taxes. Carrie, how are you? Is the usual? Anything unusual?
Well, we did change up our form a little bit because for some reason this year we had different reasons for overpayments. Generally in the past, it's been due to payments. But this year it's been, they paid properties without their exemptions, they paid Brandon County. So we did change that form up.
I make a motion that we accept the refund of the overpayment of taxes and approve.
Do a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Thank you very much. Number 5 will be separate from the other one. Is to recognize the required 20 hours of continuing education for 2015 as described in section 51.605 of the Texas Government Code, Carolina Woodrow, and District Clerk. And then number 6, to recognize the required hours, 20 hours of continuing education for 2015 as prescribed in the same code for G. Smith County Clerk. Those are so recognized. Number 7, insurance report, to recognize the insurance report fund. Kate, is there anything unusual you want to talk about on this, or things? Okay, all right, so recognized on that. Number 8, employee compensatory time. To hear a report of the employee compensatory time and take action necessary. You're gonna have to come up here anyway.
I am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everyone should have in your packet a report of the compensatory time for all of the departments that currently utilize time clock plus or responded, excuse me, responded to our request for their balances. We had, as you're aware, currently we have a 100-hour max listed in the Potter County policy. We had, of the respondents, we have one at 100 hours and 9 over countywide.
How can we fix that? How can they go over the 100 hours without taking some of the time off?
It is up to department heads, elected officials, and supervisors to manage their departments. We can encourage them to encourage their people or to manage that time and get that time off the books. Ultimately, it's compensable time. So if they work it, we're obligated to pay that time under the Fair Labor Standards Act.
And so, Kate, I'm looking through the spreadsheet, I think there's two different documents, that were provided, and I saw a total of 10 employees that were over 100 hours. And I just went through, the comp time column and just looked at everyone over 100.
And I may have missed one, I had counted 9. but
Okay, they're 9, correct, and then I saw one in, I think this might have been the sheriff's division, it was this other attachment, okay. So there are some underneath this that report to the Commissioners Court, and I'm just looking at a few: fire and rescue, road and bridge, elections, there's a couple. I'm just quickly going through here.
Right.
Juvenile probation, there's 4 in there. So Dave, we know this is a liability for the court, a financial liability. We've seen this in recent departures or separations, and we're having to pay this and it's not budgeted. How do we know the policy is over 100? We have 10 employees roughly that are over the policy. How do we counter that?
There is really no way to, if the issue is in a department under an elected official, that's the elected official's problem. You really don't have a way to affect that other than budgetary. Your own department, which is frankly where a lot of times the overtime issue is, the people that work for the county, you can make those employees take time off. And you're always gonna hear, we have too much for them to do, we can't afford to have them work. And I understand that issue, but I mean, that's the kind of policy decision you have to make. But you can certainly affect the departments that work under you. You can reduce those numbers down.
So as a court, several of the departments report informally to a member of this court, and we serve as their representative. I'm leaving to my fellow court. Would it be easier for us to take this report, have conversations with those department heads separate and offline, and bring that update to the court? I mean, I don't want to put any department head on the spot, certainly today with just this report coming out, to allow everybody to digest it and go back for a plan to possibly taking down the time.
Well, if that's the case, I'd rather talk to them individually. I think that's more appropriate.
I'm okay talking to the court.
Okay.
I'd love to address
I
this
can totally
issue.
see how you guys could
Yeah.
comp time. I mean, my gosh. I was gonna say this later, but you worked from Saturday afternoon last week until Monday morning on fire. That's really above and beyond what, yeah. Oh, you're fine.
It's an issue I've been addressing for years. I need help desperately. I send these guys home, and I'm not kidding, an hour later, pager will go off, I have to call them right back to work. So how do I spend comp time while they're earning overtime? I mean, it's a very vicious trap that I'm stuck in here, because we're trying to limit our overtime because it'll be gone by March or April. I'm trying to get them to take off more, but unless I get them out of town, they're having to come back for priority 1 calls. So it's very difficult for me to get people scheduled off, and I know we're always sitting at the 100 hours, and I'd love for you to look at my timesheet too. I mean, y'all asked me to clock in and out, and I've been able to see over this time period how ridiculous the amount of hours is that I put in myself as compared to everybody else, trying to limit their overtime and their comp time. So it's very hard to do. I've limited training. I've limited a lot of things for the paid employees just to keep their comp time from going completely through the roof. And it's a very bad predicament to be put in. And when we went to the Time Clock Plus system, this is one of the big issues that I said is how do we keep this from happening? I don't have the answers for you.
And Chief, just so you know, the numbers, Pat is at roughly 121 and Craig at 158. And so from my perspective, I don't think the goal is to get to 0 at all. Please know that. That's where my concern is. It's not to get to 0, but definitely to be below the policy. So if we've got 121 and 158, I guess I'm just looking for a plan, even if it's a 3-month plan or a 4-month plan, to possibly bring down under the 100 mark.
Other than the training or some of the specific things that they may turn around some already
plan. I don't like it.
Well, that's why I'm looking to the leaders of our department to help.
I mean, as far as one of the unique departments in the county, along with road and bridge also. So it's gonna be somewhat difficult. I certainly open to hear some suggestions as you deal with this on a daily basis.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, we know every year I ask for overtime. Every year it's cut back to roughly what it was the year before. So I can't, when we hit the end of the overtime, it's comp time, period. So when they have something that they need to do, they're taking comp time instead of vacation time. We're trying to limit the amount of overtime, so it's there for dire emergencies when we absolutely need it. But at the same time, by April, we're gonna be out of overtime, so they're gonna be earning comp time for the rest of the year. So it's always this battle to try and keep up with how do I limit that time? Because if I tell them they can't come to work, what's gonna happen?
Yeah. And
Some
you can't
days there's
control.
fires that there's 4 or 5 of us until the rest of the guys get off work and come help us, so.
And road and bridge helps with the fires also, right?
Yes.
And it's just like, Mike, your department, the weather's bad, we have a snowstorm, you guys have to come in and shovel and what all, so that's overtime for them. So it's, none of that we can control, not one thing.
When I get the opportunity to do something, you know, to send them somewhere to do a training class or something that's not on county time, I have them use that comp time up as much as they can. And, you know, one of the things you see there is if you're using comp time, then you're not taking vacation time or anything else. So it's a very tricky balancing act to do with the limited number of people that are, you know, very necessary employees at all times. So it's hard to juggle that.
I'd like to hear from Mike from the facilities. I got this report this morning, and you are controlling your overtime quite well. Can you give us how you're doing that, and maybe we could pass that on to the other departments?
We have an internal policy of 75 hours. If you get it, you are taken off. Nick watches that very closely. We have had employees through the years that's at that level, they'll make them take some time off. We've just done that ever since the policy was established.
I appreciate the way you're handling that, because there's got one person that's approaching 70 hours, the rest of them are not even close. Thank you for doing that.
Same thing for the tax office and county clerk, seems to be maintained pretty well. District clerks and things.
And to reiterate some of what Richard was just saying, the county has 100-hour rule. The DOL has also a compensatory time cap. And the DOL differentiates between regular offices and law enforcement, fire, and seasonal employees by double. The DOL allows 240 hours for everyone else and 480, correct me if I'm wrong, but 480 on law enforcement, fire, and seasonal type workers. So the Department of Labor recognizes, as we should, that those are unique situations.
It just was. And I think we're doing such a fantastic job with our fire department, with 4 full-time employees and covering the country that we do with to have to all the wrecks out in the country and the fires. I hate to raise a stink with the fire department at all. I think we might be engaged in a little more conversation, see what Mitchell may have some ideas, but I think I agree.
So even outside fire and rescue and road and bridge, there's still 6 others that are over this 100-hour mark. So I'm just trying to bring that to light in the fact that that affects the budget, and not only does it affect it if someone separates from the county, but also year to year, as we have COLA increases, we're paying those out at a much higher rate. And Michelle Arsenault, the TAC consultant, brought that to our attention. And so I think sometimes we attend these seminars and we take the PowerPoints and we take the information. And so Kay knows this, we had visited about it, thought we really needed to bring this to the court's attention because this is a fiscal liability. but there are 6 others outside of Road and Bridge and Fire and Rescue that are over the 100 mark. So as a court, I'm not sure if we want to visit.
And I can see elections, they have to work over. But, you know,
And this has been a high election year.
Specifically, Commissioner, beyond those just, legal, the other departments that.
There are 4 in juvenile probation. I think there's 1 at the sheriff's office for a total of 10.
One of the sheriff's office is at 100.
Right at 100.
Yeah, I marked 100 or over,
Right.
just for attention purposes.
Yeah.
And the discussion. And then, 2 in elections. 2 in elections, 4 in juvenile
See, I think
probation.
there's gonna be an exception to every rule, there's gonna be an exception, so we have to deal with that. The ones that are not, that do not fall under the exceptions,
So which are the exceptions, Judge?
road and bridge,
Okay.
facilities, fire department, elections.
Everybody's-
That's probably about it. You think of
In
anything?
elections, is that just basically a percentage of that?
And I'm assuming that when, and Melinda's not here to speak to it, but since she's not here, I'll bash her as much as I can. Right, yeah, with the vote centers and what else, I'm sure that's where they got some of their comp time that came in. But when the election's over, they can have time to take some of that time off and get their records back. There are gonna be some exceptions to every rule we have, so for the other ones, we need to keep tabs on, and it's up to the elected official.
We bring it to the court.
Maybe every quarter or something?
Every quarter, something we can stay really on top of, and if these ones that we've mentioned that, need to maybe loosen up a little bit, to really get overboard, we should be okay.
Okay, I just have a question on the employees that we don't have any balances for. Because there's a significant amount of employees that we don't have any balances for. And a lot of those fall into CSCD, but I'm also seeing several, if not the majority, in our district courts and county court of law.
If there are no figures at all, there was no response from those departments. They're not on time clock and there was no response.
And for the most part, they're exempt anyway.
They're-
Only the judge and the assistant is exempt, not the other employees.
Okay, so you'll bring us a report every 3 months, a report, and one report.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
all right, thanks, Kate. You wanna stay on this next item, or is this Dave's?
I guess it's ours.
Okay, next item is time clock policy, to consider and act upon adopting a revision of Potter County Policy and Procedure Manual 2.02 regarding time clock policy and meal breaks.
We added some language to our record keeping, provisions in the employee handbook. You'll find that on beginning on page 5. We just made some changes just to indicate, we already had provisions about time records, and so we just added, tweaked that language up a little bit to include, specifically include the time clock. Used to kind of cover that, including provision says, don't, it's kind of stating the obvious, don't play, check in for another person, and, just changed a little bit of language in that. So just to kind of reflect kind of where we're going on the time clock. So that, the new language is underlined. While we were revising 2.02, by the way, you'll go to earlier pages and we added some required language to the Affordable Care Act as far as break and meal time, which requires us to provide for nursing mothers. And so we added some language we already do, and that situation comes up, but required to, just as precaution, we added that language into our handbook just to bring it up to date. So we're, in other words, we were revising 2.02 anyway, so we didn't want to put that language in there for quite a while. We just put it in there as an extra. And you'll find that language on page 3.
make a motion that we approve adopting the revision of Potter County Policy and Procedure Manual 2.02 regarding time clock policy and meal breaks.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Community Supervision and Corrections Department Administration to consider and act upon adopting a revised administration agreement between the county and Potter Randall Armstrong CSCD.
If you recall, we had an agreement to, again, having to do with Portable Care Act and reporting, and a few meetings ago, we came to you and asked you to approve an arrangement where we would do that reporting on behalf of CSCD, although it's kind of separate from our payroll functions, and you approved that, and we said we'd bring some language back, and in the course of doing that, I dug up the current contract between us and CSCD to manage some of their employee and administrative things for them, and it's dated 1983, and so I decided, as long as I was there anyway, I just updated. So this is the revised contract, and I mean, it says pretty much, again, it embodies our current practice, but I just thought we needed to have a contract more recent than 1983. There were some changes in the stat, there had been some changes in the law since then, and a couple of changes in nomenclature, things like that. So I just kind of cleaned it up, and I run it by everybody, and I think everybody's in agreement with it, Terry. HR, so I think that reflects, auditing, I believe, I think that reflects current policy.
Dave, I have two questions. Number one, on the scope A, the county will provide administration for the benefits, including record keeping and reporting. I know that CSCD, I think, uses Time Clock Plus, but those are separate books. And so I question that language, and even as it related to the comp time document, we don't have those balances. So is that an accurate statement that we're including record keeping and reporting? We're not really doing that.
I think I specify later on what that record keeping is involved, but I mean, I don't have any kind of pride in the language. I'm happy to change it. It'll make it feel better. Perhaps I should say as detailed below, maybe a little quicker, so I apologize for that.
I'm just looking for the follow-up language in it. Now, Terry, would it be possible through the process and in terms of timekeeping, the balances, that the comp time be included to the county? That would be provided to us. Okay.
Any time.
Do we have the liability? We do not have the liability on the comp time?
We have a separate state.
Okay.
Financial.
So should the language just say that they keep their own time records?
Again, whatever your preference is, to me, not mentioning it means we don't have to worry about it. But that's just the way I write stuff.
You want to spell it out, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not particular about the language, just so that it accurately reflects what's happening, because I don't feel like we're keeping records and reporting on behalf of time, so.
We are using time clock. We've
So,
used
yes,
time
okay.
clock for 10 years, so we just track our own.
Okay.
We have no one near 100 hours.
Okay, thank you for that. And then the second piece on number 4, facilities and equipment. I was hoping, Terry, for maybe some language about, and I'm kind of struggling here a little for the language about, I'm gonna read this out loud, I'm sure more for me. The county has a separate agreement with Randall and Armstrong counties for the provision of facilities, equipment, and utilities for CSCD. I would like for us to possibly work on trying to use best practices of technology. If I remember right, I think there was a PC that came up for purchase, and we now do the VDI to help rotate out the PCs. And so I know when those equipment technology purchases, whether it's servers or PCs, I would welcome some language about a more collaborative effort about our technology. And I know that's several conversations down the road, but I think it would be helpful to have some language.
I have looked at the agreement on furnishing facilities equipment that we have with Randall County, and Armstrong County is just sort of we just kind of add them in as just, this is like a child, So they don't even, because they're so few, so few, they don't really, we just kind of take care of them. So really, the divisions between us and Potter, I haven't looked at that for quite a while, excuse me. And I don't know what the language says about equipment, but, you know, so I mean, that might be an appropriate place to put that.
Because the technology portion of equipment, the county does not pay a percentage of that. The state pays all of CSE's technology.
Okay.
We do buy the computers for the judges, but they're on CSE, that's why we have to close their time into their system.
So the state will pay for all the servers, all the PCs, everything that follows under that umbrella? Okay.
We're responsible for like furniture, other than furniture, security system.
Security system.
Okay, all right, thank you for that, Carrie. You're good with your turn?
Yeah. Okay, need a motion and a second, please.
I make a motion that we adopt the revised administrative agreement between the county and Potter Randall Armstrong PSCD.
Second, just to be clear, under motion, are we removing the language on the timekeeping, or is that staying as is? Is that?
Let me suggest to kind of wrap this up, let's just delete that second sentence in A. I don't think it refers to timekeeping. I don't think it, I mean, if it makes everybody feel comfortable, I don't think it hurts the agreement by taking it out. And so I would recommend in 1A just deleting the sentence in addition.
Okay.
Then I make a motion to approve that with the recommended condition.
And I'll continue my second.
Did you get that? So have a motion and a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Number 11, resolution, victim assistance program to consider and act upon authorizing me to execute an application for federal assistance to be submitted to the Office of the Governor, Criminal Justice Division for the continuation of the victim assistance program in Potter County. Brenda, before you start, I want to say something. This lady and her two, people that work with her do a fantastic job of what they do. You've never, ever gone to the Angel ceremony, first Friday, Tree of Angels. I urge you to go. It's the first Friday in December, and it is to memorialize the victims that have been killed by a horrible death. And these are the families that come together.
Right.
And I was asked to speak at it this year, and I was never so humbled in my life to get up there and talk to these people and see the look on their face and know that they come every year to remember their loved one, and for the job that you and your staff do to help them get through that time of their life is just, it has to be so rewarding for you, but so hard at the same time. So I want to thank you for what you do. It's very emotional, it has to be. Go ahead and present your
thank you
case.
for saying that.
You're very welcome.
With that, we send out over 400 invitations. Those invitations alone are for homicide and violent death families. That doesn't include anything else such as sexual assault, child abuse. It's just for homicide. So that is over a period of years. And we have usually about 200 people or more on a good night come, and we have a great ceremony, and they all appreciate it. And it's people that we stay in touch with year after year, and this is for them, and we're happy to do it. And thank you so much for being our speaker this last time. We had a lot of great things, people that said how wonderful you were.
Thank you.
This grant, this time, which I'm glad, is on a 2-year period. We're gonna be locked in for 2 years. The state of Texas, through the governor's office, has issued an unlimited amount of money to apply for again, which is the second year in a row. We're happy for that, because we can include the 3 girls, including myself, in this department, our full budget. We are required to have a 20% cash match, which does include the city of Amarillo, and Potter County's portion, as you'll see, for the full 2 years is a little over $13,000. So I'm happy to bring those numbers down for us and be able to get more money from the state. And
Why do you think the state has given us more money? Is it just because there's been an increase in domestic violence and what all, or what do you think it is?
I just feel like that, this program has just opened up. They've had more people apply for it, they've got more counties involved, and they've just reached out for more money. The money from our, Crime Victim Assistance Fund actually comes from our inmates that pay in when the courts, charge them to pay fine and fee for that. But, we've always just had a limited amount of money, which was $45,000, which wasn't a lot to work in on 3 people, so glad to have it.
It's well worth it. Thank you.
Do I have any questions?
I move that we authorize Judge Tanner to execute an application for federal assistance to be submitted to the Office of the Governor, Criminal Justice Division for the continuation of our victim assistance program here in Potter County.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you want to wait for this, or we can bring it to you? I can sign it right.
I'll just say it later.
Thank you so much. Okay, next, 12 resolution, CJD body worn camera grant program. To consider and act on a grant resolution to the Governor's Criminal Justice Division and designate the county judge to act as the county's authorized representative.
This is just something that we're looking at right now, as you know, that body worn cameras are a hot topic throughout the nation. It was tried to be a mandatory issue in the legislature for the past, so something that we've looked at for the last couple of years. The Criminal Justice Division out of the Governor's Office has offered a grant to local municipalities and to sheriff's office, and so we had originally applied for it. We got a preliminary response back stating that we received that grant. So we're now going through the grant process of doing all of that. And part of the piece that we need is the resolution. It doesn't mean that we're going to go out and get these, but this is still contingent on budget time. This spring, fall, or summer, whatever, however you want to call that. So we're still contingent on that. The one company that we looked at, and I've sent you I hope it's in the packet. The one company that we looked at, there's 30 cameras at $399 that we're looking at, which is a total of $11,970. We go with the full deployment of those cameras in their storage. We get those cameras for free. The cost is right now is in the storage and the license fee. I'm sure you saw that, it's quite high, it's $35,460, and that's a yearly base, so it's quite costly. Talking with IT though, we looked at just buying our own server within 5 years, and said if we're lucky, we could hold off for 5 years, but you're talking a lot of video storage. And in 5 years, we would have to double our capacity in storage anyway. If we did our own storage, it would go into the server, and we'd have to hunt and pick and find where it's at. This company actually catalogs it, so if anyone puts it in there, it goes in under your name, it goes under your fire number, whatever, so it's very easy for us to pull it back out. But it also has a redaction feature as well, so if there's things that we need to redact and those kind of things. We are looking at also possibly going to them with our in-car video camera, and I think Randall could probably talk on that. Just right now, there's a lot of the camera system that we use in our cars right now is at 5 years. We've had one that went down. The cost of that system to replace is the cost of all of the cameras for the in-car under this one company. Cost there is a little bit, but the camera system that we use now is also proprietary, and they can't download the information in their system and the tech share, and that's coming to where it's now as I was told the other day, the Court of Criminal Appeals will not take any kind of video unless it's an MP4. What was the last part you said? The Court of Appeals won't take any video unless it's an MP4, whereas the arbitrator is not at this point. But anyway, again, that's later down the road. Right now, we just needed the resolution so we can move forward with the grant and see if we're awarded the grant process.
So Sheriff, if we are awarded the grant, where are you estimating the $9,237 match to come from in the existing budget?
It's not for the existing, it'll be for upcoming budget.
So are you expecting that as a new expense, or you're looking at offsetting that in a different line item in the budget?
It'll be a new budget.
And this isn't anything that you are entertaining in other accounts that the court does not oversee? And the reoccurring cost at $35,000, same thing, just adding it in the budget?
Part of the deal too is it's a 5-year deal, and every 2 years we get new light finish for free, and they also upgrade like any songs for that thing.
And is there any cap on any increase after the 5 years? I'm assuming
Sure, after 5 years, they'll do the contract.
there's no limit after that. I mean, any way to plan whether it's gonna be a 2% or a 30% increase?
We have not gotten into that part of the discussion. At this point, we're just looking at trying to apply. And this was the best. We have tried 3, maybe 4 different body camera companies, and this by far is the best one we've had.
So you said the storage will reside with them, and not us versus sitting on our servers. Do we need any technical changes on any of our PCs to access the video, any of that? But, I mean, at the same
And we
point.
have included Jason
Okay.
in the project.
Thank you. But by us moving forward with the resolution, I feel like we're kind of implying that this will make its way through budget. I don't know if that's fair to say, but.
I think it's not buying anything, it's just that the grant period was, to apply for the grant, I think it ended in July, so we have to apply for it. Once we've been given the okay and they've said, yes, we're gonna give you the money, we have 1 year to expend and ensure that grant. It is a reimbursement grant, so we would have to pay for it up front and then reimburse you through the grant.
Where's this company from? You know?
I'm not sure.
The body cam company.
It's Taser. It's Taser, who we're looking at. They're one of those
Randall County?
leaders in the.
Randall County using
They don't use them right now, but I know that they're looking at this.
Looking at it.
Sheriff, as a follow-up, would it be possible to maybe just get the link of the grant so I can look through the requirements and any reimbursement? And then maybe the link to the company that you're entertaining?
Taser.com is it.
But is there a specific body cam that I can look
All, I
at?
mean, there is this thing, it's the Axiom, I think, but I'll send it.
Thank you.
Where's the grant?
I think it's just, I'm sure it would be online somewhere.
Good, need a motion.
So more deep.
I'm sorry, you have no question.
I was just gonna ask, mention that the state legislature had looked at making these mandatory. Do you think that that's gonna be a mandatory thing at some point?
Myself and talking to the county attorney and the DA, we probably all agree that that's coming. And so why not take advantage of it now that we have the grant money that's available? But I can foresee that I say within the next 5, I've heard within the next legislature, we'll probably see that.
The protection for you and for the citizens, I think it's a good deal.
Sheriff, do you think
It's
it would
not a
come,
fix-all. I do want to throw that out there. It's not a fix-all.
do you think it would come through as an unfunded mandate, or you think there would be state, I mean, I know this is a grant, but it really doesn't, touch the maintenance of it year to year? Should we be talking to our local legislators to say, don't send this down as an unfunded mandate?
I think you're
I would
right.
be shocked. I would be
I was
shocked,
gonna say,
shocked if they sent us any money for this.
I think you're
Based on prior experience.
I think you're
You can ask, you can always ask.
You're getting funding out to the grant.
No, I'll go on record as saying.
Start the day.
I didn't want to go. I didn't want to
A steak dinner for everyone. Dave said
However,
it.
I'm getting a little bit out of my field too, but I'm kind of wondering if something like this might actually, I mean, our rates as far as our liability insurance are pretty good already, but I'm kind of wondering if this might be a factor that might help keep those from going up. And I don't know the answer to that, I'm just speculating.
If it could bring it down 35,000 to help offset the reoccurring, then that would be good.
So, I think it's a worthwhile expense, I do think it's coming.
I agree with you. I mean, when we started looking at that, I mean, I looked at that figure and almost said, heck with it, I'm not even putting in for it, because it is extremely high. But technology now, I mean, how they add everything on it. And what we're paying now for our arbitrator, which we don't have the body cameras, but just the technology for the recurring maintenance for the arbitrator is probably half that as well. I mean, it's expensive, but, you know, like I said, it's top of the line, and they're probably the number one body camera out there right now. Lots of different features, but they do offer their own storage, and it's unlimited storage.
Do you know when we'll know by, since the application period ends in July, when they'll make the announcements?
I think, yeah, about August, something like that. It's and it's one of those deals that the sooner you get it in, the sooner you will hear back, so it's a rolling.
What's going on in this country, this is, to me, a pretty important item to see.
There's lots of talk about it, and it's something that we've looked at, and we knew we couldn't afford it, and I wouldn't even want to bring it to you without, you know, just putting it on a budget, because it is expensive. Figure in the process.
The lawsuit's a lot more expensive than $35,000.
That's true.
Yeah.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. Do you mind moving over? Number 13, resolution to consider and act upon the 181st Drug Court Resolution to approve the Director of Potter, Randall, and Armstrong County CSCD to serve as the grantee's authorized official and to approve the submission of the grant application for 2017. Terry, you're up again.
I'm up again. Yes, sir, just as an annual, we have to run a jump through for the governor's office. We would request support for our grant application. It's just under $170,000. This applies for the 4th time we've received that grant. It goes to paying an officer's salary, a probation officer's salary. It helps provide a stipend to the prosecutors. It covers counseling. It covers urinalysis, and it also covers defense.
Terry, do you deplete all of the grant dollars? And I feel like the answer is yes, but just wanted to confirm.
All right. Need a motion, please?
Move we approve the drug court resolution as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor, raise your right hand, please. 5-0, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Here, do you need this, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I guess maybe,
Does it need to go to?
it doesn't need to go, it doesn't say anything about
No, that doesn't need
purpose,
to
or,
go.
you're good,
Thank you.
thank you. Number 14, prohibition of outdoor burning ban to consider and act upon prohibiting outdoor fires in the unincorporated areas of the county for a period not to exceed 90 days. Richard, you and I talked about this, and then, I talked to Dave, and we decided to go ahead and do this for 90 days and see what happens. Obviously, we had a big fire last weekend.
Yeah.
What is our index today, do you know?
I don't have the exact figures for today, I just got an email on it. Right now, they're encouraging that we monitor and enact some burn bans. Local activity becoming busy. Our seasonal graphs right now are putting us in the 600 range. So we're somewhere in that range right now. Since the first of the year, we've had 14 anything from grass to brush fires. 4 of those were the result of outdoor burning, and 1 of those caused considerable damage to a fence in a building just through outdoor burning activities. And since the weather has started to warm up a little bit, we're seeing anywhere from 8 to a dozen controlled burns called in every day. And with the potential for fire spread rates picking up pretty high, I think we need to definitely look at curtailing that for the time period. And,
And Chief, you said that you think our index is around where, I'm sorry?
I think it's in the 600 range. I don't have accurate figures. You've been able to hit that.
You know, I'm gonna look it up now.
Yeah, I am too, and it shows us in the blue, which is good, but I wanna make sure I'm getting down to our county. It's not indicating, at least what I'm seeing on the interactive map, that we're close to the 600. Because obviously that's a question that we get when we start to enact the burn ban, so.
Right, and that's one of the issues, is we're coming off moisture, but we have freeze-dried cured fuels right now, and the fires are carrying their complete burns. Even though we're having some humidity recovery at night, we're still seeing active fire at night, which is something that you have to really pay attention to, because we try to calm the activity down at night, because the fires generally slow down, the humidity comes up a lot more, and we're not seeing that right now. We're seeing fires carry through the night.
These fires are taking place, people are doing controlled burns, and they're not supposed to. What action do we take?
Well,
if any?
Sometimes there's action taken, sometimes there's not. The problem is the outdoor burn ordinance is, a civil process. So generally it doesn't have the teeth to it that we need. The issue comes about when somebody starts a fire and it causes damage to somebody else's property. Technically, under state law, that's an arson. It's really hard to go out and charge everybody for arson that's, you don't have a fire escape. So sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. So it's one of those gray areas that it's really hard to do anything to somebody for causing damage to somebody else's property.
This takes care of campfires out on the river and things like that.
What I would like to do is add in the language as we have in the past before, where we allow them to burn household trash in a barrel with a screen over it. And we would allow warming fires, cooking fires outdoors in a metal container with a screen over it. And that way it keeps us from having overabundance of trash piled up that people feel they have to, burn a whole thing at one time. It allows them to keep their trash cleaned up. It still allows them to keep their property clean. And it allows for recreation on the river without having the issue of open fires that are causing more damage. So
Dave, were you able to find the index amount?
Yeah, it's low, it's 200, which is far from drought conditions, but that's why I was glad to hear Richard kind of give examples and talk about what the circumstances were, because there are 2 ways you can impose a burn ban, and one is the drought index, which are not there, but the other one is, and that's the language we've used in this particular order we generally use, is that the commissioners find that circumstances present, and all or part of the unincorporated areas of the county create a public safety hazard that would be exacerbated by outdoor burning. So in other words, a more general standard that allows the commission's court feels like the evidence indicates that there's a public safety reason to impose a burn ban, they're allowed to do so. So in order to make that kind of judgment, you want to hear the type of evidence that Richard has just given.
And so Chief, just to follow up on that, I just want to make sure my notes are correct if we get questions as a follow-up. So you're saying the fires they're carrying further, and there's active fires at night, and then controlled burns, I guess, as they start, are getting out of control really quickly.
Yes.
Is that accurate? Okay, thank you.
And we have a heavy fuel load
And that's
Because
it.
of last
From
summer's-
last year, we haven't really fuel load, and if you've noticed, we've only had 1 or 2 days lately that there hasn't been substantial wind. And, they're all kind of running together, but I think it was the week before last, somebody started a small open fire, and as soon as the wind hit it, it took off, hit tall grass, and we had, building and fence damaged in a matter of minutes. So, the fires are getting to where they're much more out of hand, than they would be should we have higher humidity, have moisture on the ground, something like that. We just haven't seen the moisture. We've seen fronts coming through, but they haven't been, moisture producing. They've all been very dry fronts.
Well, Dave, I'd like to ask you a question. Is there any way that we can put more teeth into this law that, might have it if people are gonna disregard it and nothing's gonna happen to them anyway? I
We're
mean, it
doing
doesn't
about
make
all
any
we
sense.
can, which is if they violate the burn ban, we're allowed to get a ticket, we do that.
Once a burn ban is enacted, if they violate that, it's a Class C misdemeanor, and we're allowed to write a misdemeanor citation for that.
Not way we can increase that to Class B.
No, that's right, we're following the statute pretty much word for word there.
Thank you.
And we do try to enforce through warnings. We give a lot of warnings for burning violations, and should there be repeated violations or serious violations, then we issue citations for those.
Thank you.
Right, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve prohibiting outdoor fires in unincorporated areas of the county for a period not to exceed 90 days.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. 0, any none?
You can lift it. Yeah.
Yes. 15, Prairie West Estates Unit 10B, acceptance of roads to consider and act upon accepting certain new roads in Prairie West Estates Unit number 10B for county maintenance. How are you? Good.
We're ready to accept roads in Prairie West Unit 10B. We have checked them, so we're ready to go.
Commissioner, is that, any
Yes.
feedback on that? That's an
That is correct.
No, you're good.
I move that, we accept certain roads listed on our, materials in the Prairie West Estate Unit number 10B for county maintenance.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. 0. You're gonna stay up there, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay. Road and Bridge Department policy on installation of culverts and protection in county right of way. To consider and act upon adopting a policy regarding the installation of culverts in the unincorporated areas of the county and to prevent obstruction of the county right of way.
I think Dave took care of the wording for us and everything on it.
They, Road and Bridge is helpful to provide us, I know nothing about this, they provided me the specs, and I just took it and kind of incorporated it into a little policy, and Sebastian wanted to add some language about kind of protecting the right of way when we had issues with mailboxes and such and obstructions, and so we've added that at the end.
Dave, will you, help me understand, I think at one point Sebastian said this goes into a document. When someone calls the county and wants to work on anything out in the county, there's something that goes out to them, so this is gonna be included in that, and I'm not sure what it's called.
Yes.
Do y'all have like a road specification
Yes,
document?
yes.
And so this, okay. And then, my only other question was, I know there's language on A33, looks like, there's 2 3s, A33, installation by the county, that it's not required that we do it, but they have to comply with the specs, and we charge $500 for installation plus the cost of the culvert. What if they put it in and it's wrong, and we have to go back, or it doesn't meet specifications?
Well, we don't take responsibility. If they put it in themselves, if we have to tear it out, we have to tear it out. That's just how we.
It says right in here.
Yeah, if they put it in themselves, but we gotta approve it.
We have to, okay,
Right.
okay.
And that's because we'll be maintaining it. So this is, so they aren't And so we want to have it the right one so that it won't interfere with our operations.
And then what about, and I'm sure this is just my lack of knowledge on the county roadside, what about if it falls within the ETJ? I'm assuming the ETJ takes precedence. I don't know if our specifications match the ETJ.
That is not a factor here
Okay,
on county roads.
ETJ
And they work
has
with
to follow
us.
the city.
Right, they, in fact, we talked to them about several of them, and they're good with ours right at this point, so.
okay, because we do have
We don't have
some
a
in
problem
the
with
county
that.
that are past the city, but the
Right.
ETJ barrier is outside the limits.
That's correct.
Okay,
We haven't had any problems with that.
thank you.
My only comment was, in my discussions with the culvert issue around the state with other commissioners, that what we charge is very, very minimal. They charge a lot more than we do, but this works for us, so let's just stay that way.
Need a motion?
I move we adopt a policy regarding the installation of culverts in the unincorporated areas of the county and to prevent obstruction in the county right of ways.
Second?
A motion and a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. 0, thank you. Number 17, local government corporation, to provide an update on the local government corporation. And I have you and Commissioner Kelly.
Yes, I was absent at the last meeting and Commissioner Kelly, joined in the audience, so he can chime in. But the two big things that I wanted to just bring to the court's attention is the committees have had just a intro kind of meet and greet meeting, so that's really gonna start kicking off. And then, the LGC is waiting on the analysis. I think it's an 8 to 9 week study from the third party that they hired to look at feasibility, I guess a feasibility analysis. So once all that is back and that document is obtained on the LGC, of course, I'll bring that back to the court. And then,
I really don't have it, no, I'm just kidding.
you have notes, I love this, thank you for helping.
Reference the streetscape text dot, there's no additional information other than that they'll bid it out sometime spring, maybe April, when they'll bid that out. Convention Center parking garage, bids were received on 2/4 right after this meeting, and right after the meeting I went to, and they should have a contractor by now, and hopefully the February 10th meeting, they'll, at the library, supposedly everything's done there. The Convention Center Hotel, everything's on schedule. Most of the underground work has been done, and it'll be a hard hat operation here. So if you want to go visit that, you certainly can, but bring your hard hat. The INPED, the company of Brailswood and Dunleavy, they're supposed to meet this week and make some, I guess, suggestions. So that's on schedule. And there was a final settlement with the city, reference Wallace Bajaj. Everything's done. The money's been paid out. There's 700-something thousand, or 70,000 to take care of that part, and then 20,000 to the lawyers. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Thanks, both of you. Number 18, shelter maintenance, to consider and act upon approving an agreement for shelter maintenance at the county courts building with TD Industries in the amount of $15,470. Quarterly payments of $3,867.50 from TCPM Cooperative Contract Number R150501-TX-9066. Effective February 1, 2016 through January 31st, 2017. Funds currently are budgeted.
Happy birthday,
Thank you.
Dave.
Thank you.
Today's your birthday,
It is.
and you're how old? 21? 21.
Yeah, it's the anniversary of my 21st birthday. Yeah. 34.
34.
Yes, ma'am.
The Mayor Pup.
I was 34 once.
So this is a, we are going with a new vendor. This is TD Industries. They do have the contract on the county courthouse and the Santa Fe building. This is a 1-year cooperative contract for just a service on the chiller there at the district court's building. It is considerably cheaper than the previous vendor, so we are
So was that the reason for the move, was the expense, or was there other reasons you moved to another vendor?
TD has several local technicians here in town that they do get factory trained on whatever equipment it is that they're going out for. So we've been awaiting TD's response and getting their guys trained for us, and they did that. And so now they qualify for the service agreement. So basically we get two prices. This came back cheaper. We're very satisfied.
Was it the chiller over there or the Santa Fe building that we recently refurbished?
Santa Fe building, yes, and they did the job on that. It was the compressor.
And you're satisfied with their work on that?
Absolutely, okay, yeah. Yeah, they installed a couple of air-cooled chillers for us, and they did the water-cooled compressor replacement.
Okay.
I just have one question for Nick. Moving it over from Carrier, does that, do anything with our warranty, having another provider?
No, there's no warranty.
I just wasn't familiar with the new unit or.
No, man, this is a unit that's been installed, in 1985, I believe, and it's new. Carrier's been taking care of it. They just rebuilt the chiller for us a couple of years ago. They had a full service agreement with us where they would repair everything, and we wouldn't have to be out of pocket anything. And up until, I believe, last year, year before last, they said they would offer that to us if we could be able to do that. So they did that for us, and then here we are.
So you've been very satisfied with TD Industries?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the agreement for chiller maintenance at the county courts building with TD Industries in the amount of $15,470 for the TCPN cooperative contract.
Okay, for the second. A motion and a second, all in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you all. You all have a good day.
Thank you. Have a good one. Do you have any product plans projects you want to talk about from Mike? Jail report today is 505 individuals, 73 of those are females, which gives us an 81% felony rate and 12% misdemeanors.
Any in children?
None in children. Do we have any county insurance items? No executive session. Before we leave, I think Leanne wanted to speak about.
Mercy's gonna go ahead and talk about our student government day.
Yep, so we, just to save the date and the court, got something via email, April 11th, will be our next government day, so we'll have it in the auditorium. And, thank you for everybody's participation, and the committee is jumping on and time is flying. For those that are, the department heads and elected officials, those that are gonna be joining us for lunch, we're just asking you to pay for your meal. We're reaching out to Young Bloods for the food. So more of that will come, but April 11th to save the date.
Hopefully this year nobody will be enough food left for everybody.
And no rain.
No rain.
Well, we need to limit those young people from coming.
We talked through that in the committee, yeah.
So do we have any, I noticed a couple of faces in the audience, we didn't have any public comment, anything, maybe, so, Steve? Just state your name and.
I'm Steve Carroll with the 1930 South Harrison. I feel like I'm a daily and a dollar short, but I just wanted to come and voice support for the decision that you guys made last week dealing with the Howard County Sheriff's Office. You know, on top of knowing Sheriff Thomas for a long time, I don't think he'd ask for something he doesn't need. And it was a result of a extensive study from some citizens as well. So I know that leadership can be hard, and no seems to be the easy way out these days. But I applaud y'all for the decision that you made, and just remind you that the popular way isn't always the best. So thanks for your leadership.
Thank you. Wow. Our work here is done. Okay, any additional agenda items for next time? I'm sure we will. Okay, anything else? Nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you.